Welcome back everybody to Taylor's Aboard a Campervan. Probably one of the last times I ever say that. You've read the title, you've seen the thumbnail. Yep, the van is no more, unfortunately. Now there is a lot to tell you guys. Loads really. Let's start from the beginning really. As you know, for months now, the van has been, crashed and not repaired. That is down to the insurance taking so long to respond to us, and then when they finally gave us the green light for this independent garage to do the repairs for us, he didn't reply to us for about a month. And he's finally replied now, saying he's bought everything, he's got everything but the headlights. Excuse me, there's a airport near here. So yeah, he's got everything ready, and then Dad says, okay, just let me know when we're ready to do this. But as you also know, we haven't had a handbrake for about 4 or 5 months too. It went just after the crash, the handbrake, because that was on 12%. I didn't know that. But yeah, it was only on 12%, but because we paid £2 for rust repairs and welding, we couldn't afford to get the handbrake done. So, having the handbrake not done, it went and destroyed the ABS sensor and a lot of other things, and yeah, it's just in a state. So anyway, we had to try and get 3 or 4 people to repair that for us. None of them wanted to do it because it's such a long and arduous job that is not worth a lot of people's time. So anyway, me and Dad were thinking about doing it on our own, but we didn't know the know-how, and there was so many parts that went into it. And then a little bit further down the line, the tie rod's ends went, and you could hear it knocking every time you were turning the wheel slow. Do, 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 the tie rods went. So me and Dad said, okay, we'll try and do that ourselves as well. So we went and bought some tie rod ends to the van, and we were going to do that, and we took the back wheels off at the same time to just have a look at the ABS sensor and what we had to do to put the handbrake on, because we had the handbrake, we just needed to try and do it, but it's quite difficult to do. Anyway, we go take the back wheel off and we notice that all the wheel nuts are loose, all of them. I'm thinking, what the hell's going on here? And I'll tell you why they're loose later. But anyway, we go to the tie rod ends, and they haven't been changed since 2005 when they came out of the factory. They're completely corroded, and there was no way we could take them off. We tried unbolting them, but the bolts were on so tough. But then we got contacted by some lovely subscribers, Sue and Tim, he's a mechanic and he knows what he's doing. So he said, okay Andy, I will, because he's a truck driver in a week, on the weekends, he's only about 45 minutes away from Sheffield, so every weekend he was coming up, and he had to see what parts he needed to get for the handbrake, and then he knew what parts he needed. Okay, but then they tried to pull the backing plate off, but they couldn't. It bent Tim's puller. So then we had to get it into a garage, okay, and they had a much stronger puller. So that weekend, Dad was ready to go to the garage, and he was going to be staying there for that week as well, and then he'd be working again. He was staying on Tim and Sue's boat while the van was in the garage, and he won't be back for 11 days. But just as Dad was driving to Tim and Sue's, he noticed something weird with the gearbox. There was some whining and vibrating. It was acting a bit weird. So when he got to Tim and Sue's, he was stuck in 3rd gear. He couldn't get out of 3rd gear. So he struggled on to Tim and Sue's, he got there, and then the next day, when he took it to the garage, Dad somehow, I don't know how, made it to the garage in 3rd gear. And then we didn't hear anything from Monday or Tuesday until Wednesday. We heard that, yeah, it's a big job. I don't actually know what's happened at the moment, because we haven't heard much, and this is about a week and a half later. The van's still there. I don't know too much, but apparently the engine mounting brackets may have failed, causing the gearbox to get dislocated, and then that caused a major malfunction with the gearbox, and yeah, it's stuck. The garage said there is a lot wrong with it, and you know, even though the van went in for the backing plate to be removed, it thankfully happened at the right place at the right time. This, because the van was obviously undrivable now, but conveniently, we get good luck with bad luck. The good luck is this happened as Dad was taking it to a garage anyway, but for a different job. The bad thing is this happened in the first place. I don't know what's caused it, but we think, and what the garage thinks, is this is a result of the crash. And it's just taken a while to take effect, because everything's been moved in the engine bay and not in its original space. And the garage said the other day that this is the second worst vehicle they have ever worked on. There is so much wrong with it, so much more than what I'm telling you in this video. They gave a whole list of everything that is wrong with the van that I can't even remember. But Dad's got it on his phone and I can't even read the handwriting. But it's just terrible. It's in a terrible state, the van. It's just no good. I'm going to say it. Sadly, it's uneconomical to repair. Yeah. It will cost thousands to put the van right. And as you guys were saying in the blacking video, the rust, you guys have never seen anything so rusty. And yeah, because I don't know what I'm looking at, and a lot of you guys do, I can see now that the van is, I think everyone thinks that it was, you know, used in and around the sea. Oh, bloody cat! I'm trying to be the cameraman, which is not the camera over. Yeah, so it's likely that the van had exposure to seawater at some point, because the rust underneath it is unbelievable. Now, we should have just scrapped it then and there, the van, because I've wasted so much time, and Mum and Dad have wasted so much money inside. What we've put into the van is about £6,000. That does not include buying it, and it's literally made Mum and Dad in debt. So at the moment, we don't actually know what's going on with the van. They're looking into it, and what we're hoping is that the garage can find out that this was caused by the crash, and the van can be written off like it should have been in the first place. And that's what we were hoping for. We were hoping for the van to be written off, but for some reason they didn't even send an engineer out or nothing. This is one call, by the way. And yeah, so hoping we can get it written off so we can get some of the money back. Now, we only put down about we bought it for, £2,800 on the insurance, when obviously it is worth a lot more, but we didn't have time to change it on the insurance, because obviously if we turned it into a camper and said it was worth 6 or 7, 8 grand, yeah, we would have got a lot more, but of course we didn't do that because it wasn't complete yet, which is kind of frustrating. But what this means for the channel is that Mum and Dad do not have the money to buy another van, and which is sad really, because you know, this channel was going well, and it's going better than I expected, and we all were really enjoying the Campervan adventures, and we were looking forward to going on the next one. And yeah, it was great fun fitting the van out, it really was. And I've learned so much about carpentry and just everything really when it comes to this sort of thing that is valuable to me. And so that's why I'm not too annoyed, because I've learned a lot. And it's not the end, because one day I will get a camper van when I'm probably living in a house, because to be honest with you, I do find going out in a camper van less stressful than narrowboating sometimes. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Sadly, this is the end for now. So what we had to do is Mum and Dad have scraped enough money together as they can to buy a cheap car. I'm not going to say what car it was, not going to say how much we paid for it, because that will spoil an upcoming vlog on the Narrowboat channel. which you won't see for about a month or so anyway. But I thought I had to make this video because I've got no more Campervan channel videos left. Yeah, that last camping video trip to Devon was the last one in the Campervan, sadly. And this will probably be the last video for now, but I do have plans for this channel. Now, the plans are, I might change it into Taylor's off-board instead of on-board. And what that means is that everything that is not narrowboating, so when we go down to see Nan and Grandad, when we go down to see Amy and Robbie and down to Ilfracombe and all that, when we go on holiday, or maybe if we even go for a day out away from the boat, that probably will be all on this channel. So stay tuned, because yeah, this will probably be the second channel now for things that aren't narrowboaty. And eventually in the future, we're hoping, well, I don't know when, but maybe when we get another campervan. But what this means for the campervan at the moment is it's just being left outside the garage for now, because it's got insurance and it's got tax and it's got MOT. But it's been deemed unsafe to drive for the minute. So we can't really afford the repairs of the van. We're hoping one or two things happens. It gets written off and we get paid out, you know, £1,500 or whatever we get. And second thing is that the insurance company might even repair it for us, which would be, you know, good. Because the thing is about a campervan, it's not like a car, you know, especially when you've made yourself. All the money is in the inside. All the plywood, the nails, the screws, the paint, the carpet, everything. We've spent so much money on the interior. And the only other thing we can do really is buy another Peugeot Boxter shell, but of a newer generation that is galvanised underneath. Because to be honest with you, the rust underneath that van was incredibly bad, and it wasn't going to last much longer anyway, was it? It was just, yeah, I'll admit it, you know, it was stupid. We shouldn't have bought the thing in the first place. Me and Dad just got overly excited. Mum was the one who said, yeah, I didn't really like this van that much. We should have just looked around a bit more. I should have done way more research. You know, I thought, transits are the only ones that are rust buckets, but turns out most of the vans are rust buckets anyway, unless they were galvanised. At the moment, we're just trying to get in contact with the insurance company and see what they can do. So for now, Dad's been staying in Tim and Sue's boat, but they're blacking it this week. So what Dad has to do is he has to drive 45 minutes away from Shifnal, and he has to stay in the van. So he is actually staying in the van, but he's driving the car, because we had to hire a car as well last week for Dad, because me and Mum are the ones who bought the car down where we were, and we took it up and picked Dad up on Sunday. Having a car is a lot simpler, and I do feel less anxious now, because I tell you what, I would quite often go up to the van and check it to make sure it hasn't been broken into or stolen, because I got worried because there's so much money in it, anyone would want to steal it. But with a car, yeah, it's not as likely to be broken into or stolen. We also had, originally, before we even got the van, the original idea was for Dad when he was going to work, because we were getting further and further away, uneconomical to drive back and forth every day. We were going to get a GRP cruiser, and Dad was going to have more on the Shropshire Union somewhere, and he was going to stay on that every weekend. Unfortunately, we didn't go down that route. We went down the route of buying a Kangoo, and then we bought this big van, and it just went all pear-shaped. But it's something we always really wanted to do, have a camper van. It just didn't work out for us, because we just ended up buying the wrong van. Just my advice I give to anyone who's going to buy a camper van: make sure it is perfect. Do an online check, make sure it hasn't been clocked, stolen, or had crash damage. Take a mechanic with you to check it over. Just look on the underside, make sure it hasn't got much rust. What we're going to do with the inside, we don't want to just scrap it with all that money inside. It would be nice to try and sell it with all that stuff inside, or like I said, take it all out and put it into a new van. But we're not going to be able to afford a new van anytime soon. We also had an idea of getting a Shell GRP cruiser and manipulating the stuff from the van into the Shell of the GRP cruiser so we can reuse it all, which is not going to work as well, but it might work. Might not look very good, but thankfully I don't think we had to go down that route, because Dad has now been offered live-in accommodation at the pub, which is the original problem of why we had to get a new boat or a van in the first place, was because Dad had nowhere to stay. When he first got the job, he asked if he could stay there, but he wasn't allowed. But now, thankfully, he is, because of a certain thing that went down, which I cannot mention at the moment because it will spoil what's coming up on the Narrowboat channel again. But yeah, he is allowed to stay at the pub now, which is great. Which means we don't need a van. We've just got a nice estate car now. And I wish we could afford another van, but unfortunately, even if we scrape together $2,000, it's not going to buy us anything good. You need at least $5,000 to buy a half decent van, one that isn't even converted. They're just a lot more valuable than cars, because everyone knows what you're going to do with it. Turn it into a camper. So yeah, for now, this channel is pretty much dead. It's the end of the road for Taylor's bought a campervan. It was short-lived, but it was sweet. And yeah, I really enjoyed the times that we went out, and it was great fun. But we can always go camping in the estate. Mum can sleep in the back of the estate, and me and Dad can get the tents out. But it's not going to be the same, is it? Maybe one day. But for now, this channel will be probably turned into Taylor's offboard. Anyway, thanks for joining me on the journey of converting the van. We almost got there. Yeah. Anyway,